And also regional investigative journalist Dale Elliott brings us a story of how harsh and violent lyrics in songs are affecting today's youth in St. Lucia. It's a story that reverberates even here in Trinidad and Tobago. So stay tuned for another riveting episode of Unspun.
Recession have you down? Don't lose hope. Head on down to Tire Clinic for the recession deals. Big savings with a road hazard warranty on Dunlop, Sumitomo, and Falcon tires. Available at Tire Clinic, Couva, Chaguanas, and Pleasant Spa. Tire Clinic, a tire for every need.
Esta vez te lo digo y lo siento más real.
Don't miss Color of Passion, Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. only on CNC3. TNT Positives, a new series showcasing trials, tribulations, and triumphs. Starting Wednesday, June 9th, exclusively on CNC3.
For several years, you have often heard about Trinidadians heading to Syria to fight for ISIS in its prime. When the terrorist organization swept across Iraq and parts of Syria between 2014 and 2019, some Trinidadians heeded a call to jihad. Two of those who were captured and later taken back to the US, where they faced a court late last year, revealed not only their experience, but the startling revelation that relatives right here were sending money to these ISIS fighters. In 2014, the terrorist organization ISIS gained prominence across the world when it drove Iraqi forces out of several cities in western Iraq. By December 2015, ISIS had stretched its territorial dominance to eastern parts of Syria. The terrorism organization used its ideology of a caliphate to claim religious, political, and military authority over Muslims worldwide. The lure of the terrorist entity attracted many Trinidadian men who left for Syria mainly in the years 2014 to 2018. In several cases, many of them took their families. In 2016, former commander of the U.S. Southern Command, General John Kelly, stood before the 114th Congressional Senate Armed Services Committee and spoke openly about ISIS fighters and the fact there were more than 100 Trinidadians fighting for ISIS, the highest per capita in the Caribbean. General Kelly expressed concern about what this could mean to the security of the USA if these fighters returned home, since they possessed operational experience and ties to global extremists. Investigative work done by this journalist over the years exposed several Trinidadians who ventured to Syria and Iraq in the past, their military training, and in some cases how they would have received money while fighting for ISIS. Among the popular names that featured in several reports were Shane Crawford and John Milton Algernon, to name a few. In March 2019, Trinidadian Imran Ali, aka Abu Jihad TNT, and his son Jihad Mohammed Ali, aka Abu Durjana, surrendered to Syrian Defense Forces in the town of Baghuz in Syria and were later taken back to the U.S. to face charges that were later reported in the U.S. and our local media last year. Both men the U.S. government said were charged with providing material support and resources to a designated foreign terrorist organization, to wit, personnel in violation of Title 18 U.S. Code Section 2339B. Imran's charge mainly hinged on knowingly providing and attempting to provide support to ISIS, while his U.S.-born son Jihad was faced with conspiring to provide support. In early May, his son pleaded guilty before a Florida District Court and will be sentenced at a later date, while his father's court matter is yet to be called. But in U.S. court documents obtained concerning both men, it revealed some disturbing trends about their experience in Syria and Iraq and how interconnected they were not only to Trinidadian ISIS fighters there, but according to their statements given to FBI agent Jason Daly Kofi that was submitted to the court, they also helped to finance terror-related activities with relatives of Trinidadians. In a voluntary interview with the FBI agents, Imran said in December 2014 he listened to lectures of Anwar al-Awlaki online. Awlaki, who possessed dual citizenship for the US and Yemen, and a key organizer of Al-Qaeda, used the internet to post sermons and blog entries in which he justified conducting violent jihad against the US. Awlaki, branded a global terrorist by the US government, was killed in 2011 in a drone strike. With that acting as his calling, Imran Ali told the FBI that he left in March 2015 with his son Jihad and other children and his second wife from Trinidad to go to Syria, going through Brazil, then finding his way to Turkey. He met a contact in the Turkish town of Gaziantep, who ensured they all crossed the border to join ISIS. Ali told FBI agents that he and his son spent some time doing military training in September 2015 using AK-47s, machine guns and rocket launchers before he was assigned to Katiba, a battalion named after Anwar al-Awlaki. After a near-death experience in Shaddadai, Syria, in which 30 to 40 members of his battalion died, Ali complained of feeling unwell because he was scared. He was later treated and discharged from the battalion after 3 months. While he continued to work for ISIS in Raqqa and bought and sold goods for a profit, he made another disturbing confession in which he stated he provided money remitting services to other Trinidadian ISIS fighters. For a fee of 15%, Ali used a contact in Trinidad and Tobago who collected money from relatives of ISIS fighters, then sent the money using Western Union to Hawala, informal money remitter, dealer who operated between Turkey and Syria, who then delivered money to Ali for an 8 to 10% fee. This startling revelation showed a direct link with Trinidadians living right here, knowingly funding the terrorist organization ISIS by sending money to their relatives who they knew were fighting for this radicalized group. Ali said he stayed in Raqqa till the end of 2017 and later moved to the town of Mayadeen before later moving to Hajin, which also came under attack, forcing him to move again with his family to Al-Shashafa, Syria. While in Al-Shashafa, Ali said he ran a store and donated goods and food from his store to Trinidadian ISIS members in that town. When ISIS was attacked in Al-Shashafa, Ali said he moved to Baghuz, where he spoke with other Trinidadian members whether they should surrender to Syrian Democratic Forces, but he decided against this. It was on March 17, 2019, that he and his son Jihad and other relatives surrendered to Syrian forces. The U.S. Department of Defense said they recovered numerous pieces of evidence that corroborate Ali's role as a member of ISIS. For example, a handwritten in Arabic logbook recovered in Syria contains the list of females who joined ISIS in Syria with dates ranging from February 20th, 2015 through March 27th, 2015. The logbook contained the name of Ali's wife, Sulema Abdul Aziz from Trinidad and Tobago, according to the court document, and other names. Imran's son, who was born in the U.S. according to the court documents, moved back with his father to Trinidad in 2008 before they decided to leave for Syria in 2015. Jad told the FBI agents his father Imran asked him and other siblings if they wanted to join ISIS, and he responded in the affirmative. Asked by the FBI if he wanted to say no to his father, Jad, at the age of 14, then said he was excited to go somewhere new and see the world. Jad, like his father, describes the intense military training he was put through, learning how to use rocket launchers, AK-47 rifles. Unlike his father, Jad told the FBI he was hesitant to attend the military sessions. Jad told agents that his father made him attend the training, and he did not initially want to attend the training because he was scared to be separated from his family. Jad described some of his training as cool and other portions as scary. Incidentally, Jad said he communicated via WhatsApp with his mother, who was in Trinidad since his father had remarried, and told his mother in 2018 they conducted an attack against Syrian Democratic Forces on the Sham side of the Euphrates River. Jad was 17 years old at the time when asked by FBI agents about the WhatsApp message. Jad said he was listening to radio traffic from the attacks, but was not directly participating in the fighting. Jad claimed he used the rhetoric to impress other fighters near him. But later in the interview, Jad did admit to opening fire and laying down cover for ISIS fighters after they were attacked by Syrian forces. He told the FBI agents. Jad admitted in his interview that he fired his AK-47 rifle on behalf of ISIS when they were attacked by ground forces and a Syrian regime helicopter in Shemaya during an ISIS operation. Jad explained that he provided cover fire against ground forces down a road outside a house, firing 1 or 2 magazines of his AK-47 rifle in small bursts. Jad also told the FBI that he created a Facebook account and posted several messages on it endorsing ISIS and its violent philosophy. What Jad's Facebook account also revealed, according to FBI inquiries and revealed in the court document, was an open friends list in which it showed he was a friend of a relative and a young woman who attended the Booz Settlement Mosque in Rio Claro, Trinidad, with Jihad prior to his travel to Syria. That mosque has been predominantly on the radar of U.S. officials, but Imam Nazim for several years has denied any involvement with ISIS in several interviews with both foreign and the local media. We spoke with Dr. Melissa Figaro Neptune, a criminologist and a lecturer at UWI, who studied at Miami University and did significant research on violent extremism, working closely at times with U.S. officials. She touched on the key revelations made by the allies, including the remittance payments, the psychological impact this kind of environment could have on young children and teenagers, and the radical online teachings that wooed many male Trinidadians in the past.
One of the things that Mr. Ephraim Ali raised in his statement to the FBI was of serious concern involving remittance by Trinidadian relatives who would send monies through him to Western Union and then onto another source, and he would send it to them. Clearly, this is something that is viewed as somewhat of a way of helping to finance this terrorist organization. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's alarming because despite having all this legislation put in place regarding financing, there's still support for terrorist acts within Trinidad and Tobago. And I think we shouldn't take this lightly. So we have now individuals within our country, they're actually doing covert ways of sending money to finance these organizations. So this means that we still have a vibrant extremist population within our country who believe in these radical acts. So I don't know if this is one indication for us to actually look deeper into how, where, and who is financing these terrorist organizations and to what extent. And if we need to revise any legislation regarding that. Because I know different channels. We have smugglers who send money across the border, which is an old way of doing things where you have cash. But now we have people legitimately using like PayPal and Western Union to send money. And now we have even bigger now. The FBI have been looking into money laundering into these organizations, especially ISIS. And if Trinidadians are involved, I mean, this is very alarming. And I think there should be a deeper investigation into the extent to which we are actually involved in financing our resources to these organizations.
And then there's just as you said, that some people might not knowingly know that they're doing this. Can you just explain that quickly?
So what happened, there's always a middle person. So you might be thinking you're sending Western Union money to a relative or somebody, just an account, and that account actually may be attached to these terrorist organizations. So it may be unknowing to them, like they're sending money to a relative who some may know that their relative is involved in these acts, but they may actually trying to assist them in any type of way. And this will be unknown to them. And because there is an unknown middle person who collects the money and actually funnels it into these countries, especially the Middle Eastern countries, and through there, they actually get it to these organizations. So there's always different channels in which you could actually get finance transferred to the terrorist organizations. So in that way, some people just unknowingly do it, but they are also still financing, and they could be in a lot of hot water for some type of actions like this. So you just have to be more aware of how these transactions are actually happening and who is actually involved.
Right. Now, secondly, the son of Mr. Ali, who was also indicted in the U.S. and pleaded guilty about a month ago, also indicated that, he had to go through military types training and so on. And obviously, at that young age of 14 years, there is the psychological and emotional scar. How are these young men who have now left Syria, who have been brought back, arrested or going to be repatriated to their country, how are they going to reintegrate? What kind of psychological and emotional or even mental impact that will have on them and the society that they re-enter?
Right. So this is one of the things that I have been studying deeply because I'm actually doing a paper on it. We extracted 2 young boys a couple of years ago, and this is what piqued my interest in young people being involved and embedded in the environment of radicalized behavior. And that is problematic. That is very problematic in a sense because, one, it's not only their involvement and the exposure to that type of environment, is the ideology behind it. So you have them understanding that jihad is the way of life and holy war, and this is indoctrinated in them. This is a way of thinking. The rhetoric is something that is embedded. Just like we learn manners as children, they learn this is the way of life. And I think that is one of the more problematic things. So the ideology behind it. But secondly, of course, there's the military training. They're involved in weaponry, arms, ammunition training, and they have been exposed to the extreme case of violence. So coming back, being extracted and being repatriated, it's going to be a tough task because you don't know if they're really victimized because of their mental state, if this is the way that they think, because they could be considered victims because of their age group. But they might think it necessary to be violent. They might have tendencies to be violent psychologically. But then there's some who didn't want to be involved, and they're old enough to know that violence was not the way, or not the way to react to things. So it really is challenging to know who really has a tendency to promote violent acts, who's really remorseful, who are really victims as young people. Removing this idea of violence, removing the idea of this rhetoric of holy war is very difficult. But also you have those who would experience like this post-traumatic stress because of the violence they've been exposed to, especially if they were involved in the atrocities, warfare, all these exposure to bombs and violence and the warfare itself. So it is difficult, I think, to find the underpinnings of what could help resolve the situation. I think monitoring throughout their stay, once they've been repatriated, getting them the necessary counseling, but there's no research that shows it has been effective or it hasn't been effective. So it will be a give and take. It will be up in arms to see whether it's pragmatic or not to give them that type of counseling.
Thank you so much. And the third thing, one of the things that the father raised in his interview with FBI agents was the fact that he had listened to lectures from Anwar al-Awlaki, who was killed in a drone strike by the US in 2011, and one of those people who are the key organizers of Al-Qaeda. Can you give us an idea? Because I seen that there were a lot of Trinidadians who apparently also looked online for clerics and all these people that might have influenced their way of thinking of wanting to actually go.
Right. So I did a host of interviews in 2018, and that was one of my top questions to people who actually had family involved, knew of somebody who went or went themselves. So there's a lot of confidentiality with regards to those interviews. But one of the things, one of the individuals, it struck me a lot that a young person who left because they want to find a greater sense of life and meaning and be more involved in the Islamic world. And he listened to lectures, he and his family listened to lectures online. So they tapped into a lot of chats and talk, and there were a lot of things that were encrypted online, so they couldn't really, we can't tap into it in the conventional sense, but they will have people who they will be able to listen to and give them information about radicalization and about the extremist way of thinking and Islam, the idea of the paradise and martyrdom. So we have people who are vulnerable, especially it was a vulnerable group of Black individuals, Black young men in Trinidad and Tobago specifically, who were targeted with these lectures. But there also was the use of the internet. And what was really, really alarming was the use of resources in Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of people said guest speakers would come to the mosque. Imams were very much invested in showing them the way that they should go with regards to supporting Syria, supporting ISIS, supporting these organizations. So I think the recruitment process itself, it is actually one physically in Trinidad and Tobago. There are individuals who support the idea of this radicalized behavior, extremist violence, but there's also those who are very curious and those who want to be more strong in their faith religiously. They actually are interested, so they go online. There was one reported by the FBI, internet site, Ask FM, where people would actually go to actually introduce themselves and want to be involved, and they could talk to them on private chats. So these things were not even identified by the FBI prior to people coming to them about these websites and these avenues to get information about joining these organizations. So there are avenues, but there's also the fact that, and this was raised in one of the interviews, there are individuals who would really, really try to want to become involved in something that is extreme. They may not be very religious, but they're just trying to find avenues in order to become a little bit more relevant. And this was actually very true for one of the people I interviewed. So there's access on the internet, there's access in Trinidad, and there's also access through friends and family. People unknowingly just got involved because they are acquainted with individuals who want to become part of these organizations.
An imam who spoke to Unspun on the condition of anonymity also chimed in on the pertinent issues raised in the confessions of the allies to FBI agents. He said in reference to the children returning from Syria, open quote, some children would have known why they were going to Iraq and Syria, but none of them would have properly understood why, as no amount of theory can prepare any child for what they eventually experience. The effects that this would have on their psyche of the children would vary, but no doubt all would need different levels of counseling and support in order for proper reintegration. On the point of people sending money to Trinidadian ISIS fighters from here, he said, of course people would have sent monies to family and friends with full knowledge. However, some would have gotten monies from ordinary Muslims just paying their zakat without the knowledge of where their zakat ended up. A truly eye-opening account of the harsh situations experienced by survivors and escapees of this Islamic extremist group, a group whose reach extends across the globe and is affecting us here in Trinidad and Tobago. Don't go anywhere, much more up next.
know that bacteria remains in the stains on their clothes and they can cause diseases? Breeze detergent is also antibacterial. It kills 99.9% of bacteria. Breeze antibacterial detergent.
Yes, Breeze is proven effective against COVID-19.
Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Coming exclusively to CNC3. TNT Positives, a new series showcasing trials, tribulations, and triumphs. Starting Wednesday, June 9th, exclusively on CNC3.
Welcome back to Unspun. In the last 20 years, Trinidad and Tobago lost upwards of 6% of its tree cover, according to data from the World Resources Institute. Increasingly responsible for this accelerating loss are illegal operations plundering state lands and forest reserves. One of the reserves is the Guanapo Forest Reserve. In this report, senior multimedia investigative journalist Joshua Seemungal investigates a dangerous operation in Waller Field threatening human and forest life.
Under the cover of the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of illegal construction projects and clearings in Trinidad and Tobago is on the increase. Take a look at the sheer magnitude of this project behind me. Smack in the middle of Waller Field, 20 acres of forest reserve land has been cleared. That's equivalent to 10 football fields.
While the sight of a flattened forest and the sounds of displaced birds tell their own tales, squatters at Antigua Road also have a story to tell. Seeking a new start, more than 20 families at varying times moved to the area to live and plant. While they live there illegally, their presence may have ironically saved part of the Guanapo Forest Reserve. Initially unknown to them in December 2020, a group of men began clearing the reserve's land from the Silica Sands roadside. The work didn't stop there. While squatters recalled a recent lush green past, Unspun's team met mostly dirt and destruction. Hundreds of trees were cut down and moved and likely sold as timber.
What happened that catch everybody off guard, people do not know. Them start from at the back. Remember, all there was trees. I have pictures, I will get them pictures to you. All there was trees. So when it was at the back, nobody didn't know what was going on. Until when they reached in front of us here, at evening I come and see serum light. I said, no way in history, because I used to sit on the gallery and watch the moonlight. So then I realized something is wrong. When I come the next day, I see everything going. I said, what y'all doing? Them say they are working with LSA and them is police, so them even pull out the ID badge.
Confronted by residents, the leader of the group identified himself as a Defense Force member from the nearby Komuto base. He presented an ID supporting his claim. According to the information we gathered, an employee from a nearby construction company was also part of the group, and allegedly several police officers. Our investigations with the help of senior insiders at the LSA and other state entities discovered they were clearing the land with trucks, backhoes and excavators to develop and sell.
All of a sudden, we realized them started to bulldoze all day and started to tell people them have to pay for getting land backfill. So the people tell them and say, but how? Why we have to pay for something that y'all doing? Them said no, and if you don't pay, you will have to move.
Two families paid the men $2,000 under the belief that the men were part of the Land Settlement Agency, as they claimed. Michael, however, refused.
I said, that is nonsense. I don't know y'all. I said, all of a sudden, how y'all controlling here? I said, where y'all badge, where y'all ID? They even tell me I have to move my fence. The very next day, they moved my fence after I started to get chat with my family. I want to make I know plain and straight that I'm living in a board house, and what he could do to me and what he not do. And I have no plain and straight. I said, there's only two things could happen and I'm not scared. It's either your family will live without a father or me. I said, but I am not scared of that because you are doing things the wrong way. You're threatening my wife and I'm not at home. It's not me alone you hurt. It's not my family alone you hurt. You hurt the whole neighborhood by doing this here. So I know what the habitat used to look like. My children cry when these trees start to move. Look down right there. My children cry because of what them do. It was painful.
According to insiders, in January, the Land Settlement Agency received a formal report by the enforcement manager of the Office of the Commissioner of State Lands. Investigations by the LSA security patrol officers found that at least 20 acres of land were cleared. 23 incomplete structures were present along with 3 registered utility poles. Information obtained by investigators and revealed to Unspun suggested that members of the police service and Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force may be involved. In April, LSA conducted a site visit with personnel from the Office of the Commissioner of State Lands, the Environmental Management Authority, Ministry of Planning and Development, as well as the police service. However, according to residents, equipment used to clear the land mysteriously disappeared days before the visit. While no trespassing signs were erected, residents and some officials fear those responsible will return to finish what they started. There are also concerns that they are willing to do whatever is necessary to get the project done. This is far from an isolated incident. In February, a group of Cedros residents protested after a businessman cleared multiple acres of the Chatham Forest Reserve to set up a farm.
We're going to be destroying a virgin piece of forest here to bring in cattle and without proper approvals. Right? Our forest does a lot of things. It's a wind barrier. Right? It prevents erosion. It helps with water absorption into the soil. We have a spring nearby on the Chatham Forest Reserve just off a Boeing Trace. So all these things have been put in danger.
There have also been reports of clearings in the Northern Range, Central Range Reserve, Ecclesville, Brasso Venado, as well as around the Repo Savannas. Under Section 8 of the Forests Act, any person who fells or cuts any tree or timber without a permit is liable to a fine of $20,000 if it takes place in a reserve or on state land. Under Section 4 of the Trespass Act, a person is liable on summary conviction to a fine of $50,000 and 10 years imprisonment if they are found guilty of trespass on state lands or forest reserves. But there have long been suggestions that agencies tasked with protecting reserves and state lands have insufficient resources to offer adequate protection. There are 36 reserves covering more than 294,000 acres. Yet, last year, Conservative Forest Denny Dipchansing claimed there were more than 60 vacancies for foresters and 40 vacancies for game wardens. The Conservator confirmed to Guardian Media that those vacancies remain. He also confirmed that deforestation reports have increased. He said, quote, "Indeed, there has been an increase during the initial lockdown last year, 2020, as deforestation reports increased," end quote. Dipchan Singh said that patrols by the Forestry Division, state land officers and the TTPS have increased, with several offenders removed from sites and charged under the Forest Act. He added that the Forestry Division reforests at least 247 acres per year. According to planning and environmental management consultant Jalaluddin Khan, the country's forest management system is in a semi-crisis. Khan believed the National Forest Policy designed to maintain biodiversity and ensure forest management is ineffective. He said simply replanting trees won't be enough to repair the damage done.
One, we do have a forest policy, but again, if it's implemented by the next level, the law, and if it's implemented at the third level, the administrative system. But on the overall umbrella, it's a political will. Not only of the politicians, but the people, that we will preserve and conserve and manage our forests in a sustainable way. Overall, from all indicators and studies, and from the impact that we're having in our current environment at the period of climate change, that idea of the ridge to reef, to the mountain, to the coast, we can see our forests have been impacted and lost, and we're having, as human beings and human settlements, being impacted by the loss of forest environment. From the mountains being denuded and impacted, to the middle areas where our settlements are being flooded, and in our urban environments, we are losing trees as part of our social fabric and our connection to nature and both the spiritual side of trees.
According to online forest monitoring and alert system Global Forest Watch, between 2001 and 2020, Trinidad and Tobago lost more than 58,000 acres of tree cover. That's enough trees to fill an area the size of Port of Spain 18 times and the Queen's Park Savannah 215 times. Largely responsible is human impact through housing developments, agriculture, quarrying, and timber removal operations. However, more increasingly, illegal operations are ravaging state lands and forest reserves in search of a payday, all at nature's expense. In 2020 alone, according to Global Forest Watch, TNT lost more than 2,000 acres of tree cover. One of the most recent local studies, an EMA report from 2012, indicated that forest cover was decreasing at a rate of 0.31% per year. In the short term, given the many issues of the day, it may be easy to overlook, but in the long term, there will be consequences.
In cases where we have high flooding right now, like along the East Corridor, could be indirectly or directly resultant of cutting our forests and changing the landscape. And when rain falls, there's high amount of runoff and so forth. Also the oxygen that forest creates, the aesthetic, emotional element. So we have to look at things not only in an anthropocenic way, human-centered way. We have to look at a way of ecocentric, that we are human beings living within nature, and we have to live within the processes of nature. And that nature is not only for human being benefit. We have to be humble and be sustainable to understand that our forest provides many resources, from direct functional things like providing food, fruit, and food for us, etc., to biomedicine from plants, etc., to indirectly controlling ecosystem impact, and also to creating a sustainable environment for us to live. So forest is a whole ecosystem of both living and non-living things. So if you affect one thing, you're affecting the next thing. By disturbing bees and butterflies and pollinators, you wouldn't have pollination and continuation of a particular set of species and plants.
Don't go anywhere. Coming up on Unspun, we head back to Dale Elliott in St. Lucia to address an issue that is affecting many youths in the Caribbean. Stay with us.
I don't see a difference between the Olympics and AGT. These people train and they sacrifice just for that moment.
These have been years of work.
What you did was one of the most extraordinary things.
You realize how these can change somebody's life.
The Olympics create superstars, and AGT has done the exact same thing.
America's Got Talent season premiere, Tuesday, June 1st, only on CNC3.
This is more than just music. This is where you find the best of TNT. This is more than just a vibe. This is where Bollywood gets a twist. This is more than just energy. This is Bhangra and indie pop too. This is the mix. This is the life. Lock on or log on now. Sangeet 106.1 FM. This is authentic East Indian radio. This is us.
Welcome back to Unspun. It's a question many of the islands in the Caribbean are struggling to answer. How is the harsh and violent lyrics in the Caribbean music affecting our youth? Are they just words, or is it a lifestyle? Regional investigative journalist Dale Elliott sits with an upcoming St. Lucian artist to explore the effects of gang culture in music.
Gangsta for life.
Jamal Richard, aka Dan Chorus, a new V4-based recording artist, have apparently caught the attention of the police.
When did you first gravitate to music?
I was always a music lover, you know, for as far back as I could remember. But I think maybe in secondary school, maybe around Form 1, that's when I really started listening to music that I could relate to a lot more, you know? And that was like dancehall music back at that time.
And in those early days, who were the artists that you liked?
Movado.
Movado? Oh, I got sir.
To be honest with you, Movado, yeah.
You know, gully man. How?
I just liked his style of singing, his voice, the way he delivered his music, you know. I could have related to his music more to me, you know.
Your first song you ever penned, tell me about that.
I think it was 2012. And I just thought about writing a song that would hit for the new year. And I started writing. My life is a new year, Lord, thank you. My life is so sweet. Life is a new year, Lord, thank you. It had a hook like that, but I don't remember much about it.
From there, how did your musical journey, how did it develop?
Well, as life changed and I started going through different experiences in life, I started gaining the inspiration to write new songs about different topics, and writing music became a hobby for me from then. And I just started writing songs from then with the encouragement of my father, of course, because he's the one who's been behind me and encouraging me to write from day one.
Take me back to the thought process behind writing Dog Life.
Well, it started with the word Dog Life. It was just a word back then. My friends used to use it as a caption for anything they posted, would caption it as Dog Life, or, you know, and one day I just said, you know, how can I like the sound of that? And I hit up one of my friends and I let him know, yo, I think I'll do a song about Dog Life, right? I heard this rhythm that I really liked, and I just listened to it a few times, and then I just decided to take the initiative and just build a song about it so that I could take the word to the world.
Yeah, man, I style them differently. Why start and we defend it? We not just car, we not friendly. Dog life, you know, dog life, you know. Yo, yo, yo. Although the road rough, we still tugging it hard, and man still alive, praise due to the Lord. And enough boys say them want me dead how long, but if you shoot, don't miss, cause you feel know about karma. Me no back down from a wife start, and if you know your love tag, better you stay far. Cause when my gun pop off, and your life first last. And me no love man, and me no like informer.
It sounds very Jamaican.
Like I said, dancehall has been my preferred genre of music. I grew up listening to dancehall so much, you know, and when I started writing, like automatically I developed this Jamaican style of singing, because I think it's because most of the front runners in dancehall belong to Jamaica, but I know that dancehall is a very broad platform. So right now you see dancehall artists rising from all over the Caribbean. I mean, St. Lucia, Trinidad. You know, I've met dancehall artists from Dominica. You know, so I'm just here to do my thing.
Describe the conceptualization phase for that song, that music video. What did you have in mind? Who did you collaborate with? What were the plans?
Well, I collaborated with Virgil. He's the video director. He shot the video. A few friends from Viewfort. The concept was to shoot a video that would reflect the lyrics of the song. Right? It was, I must say that it was well planned and well orchestrated. I aimed for us to have an impact, for the video to have an impact, and it did.
It was a lot of an impact. It was a lot of an impact.
Police investigators are looking into Dan Chorus's video shoot.
Our sources tell us that police are investigating the matter of imitation firearms.
Video and stills have been brought to the attention of the High Command of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
The elephant in the room regarding that video is the proliferation of what appeared to be high-powered weapons.
Talking about the props.
How did you come across these props?
Props is not something that's hard for you to get, you know. Anybody could get their hands on props. I'm sure if you go to any town and ask anybody where you could get props, they would direct you to a store or somewhere that you could find it, but you would have to decide whether you'd want a props that sprays water or one that has buttons that would make noises. But we got some props. I purchased some, and we had to get some black spray to spray them to try to fit that concept of the video.
You are on set, and there are all of these props. Did your production crew inform the police or anybody that you may have props that appear to look like the actual weapons?
No, I don't think that even crossed any of our minds, you know, because you see, the thing about it, we were so caught up in the moment and we just wanted to get the video done because we wasn't even worried about the props because we knew it was just props.
What was the backlash?
I would call it more promotion because any publicity is good publicity. That's the way I see it. I mean, it caught the attention of a lot of people, especially law enforcement. But like I said, the aim was to have an impact, and it did. So I was so happy that I aimed for something and I achieved it.
When the video was released, what was the feedback like?
Well, a lot of phone calls, you know. To me, the entire population of St. Lucia, most of the population of St. Lucia was just anticipating the release of the video because of all those news clips and some viral videos that were released even before it hit the news.
Were you all raided by the cops after?
No, but I know that the cops are doing the job. They're doing the job.
Dan Chorus, does that scare you?
No. Why would it scare me? I know that all we had was just props, so I think they know that by now too, so that's maybe why they never raided me.
What's next for you? What's in the pipeline?
Well, with the release of Dog Life, I feel like I hit the hammer on the right nail. So I'm gonna just keep driving that nail. So I have so many songs and videos, you know, that I have well planned and ready to release. You know, I'm in the process of shooting a video right now. I just can't wait to start releasing again.
So now that you're here, give us a little preview of your upcoming song.
I have a song by the name of Sleepless Nights, and I dedicate it to my mom because since the release of Dog Life, she has been telling me that she's been having a lot of sleepless nights. She doesn't even know about the song yet, but I'll voice it for the first time ever with you. Mama nah sleep, stress a bill and everybody talking. But mama, me a go hard fit, me a go make you proud, you're my heartbeat. Yo, them want to do me like what them do cartel. Them no like to see when ghetto youths rise up and start well. We make the headline news, left everybody baffled. Now every rat and every dog, even roach, I'm a friend. One bag of calls just for ask what happened. New girl, I say she love me, I know she's an actress. That from me look in her eyes, I could see she's heartless. So me touch her and cut her off like Rapunzel. When me da work, them did a snore in her bed. Teacher said before me 18 years old, me da dead. A bag of evil wishes the wicked people I send, while me a pray for the best. Mama nah sleep, stress a bill and everybody talking. At sleepless nights.
Big tune. Big tune, big tune. To the little guy who might be 14 to 17, who has a dream, has the challenges just like you, what would you say to him in the furtherance of his career or his dream?
Put God first. That's the first thing I would tell him. Put God first. Because there is no influence, no power to cause benefit, but by the will of God. So put God first, and everything will come after. And never give up on your dream.
Tell me your full name one more time.
Jamal Remington Chris Richmond.
AKA
Dan Chorus.
Thanks so much for joining us on this edition of Unspun. We hope to see you in 2 Sundays from now, when we're hoping to bring you a fresh batch of stories that matter to you. If you have any story tips for Unspun, please ensure you drop us an email at unspun@cnc3.co.tt or call us at 800-CNC3. Until then, have a good one. And remember, be the change you want to see in the world. And please, stay safe and stay home.
This is the new one-dose